decision not to cancel school.
It's day one of the historic second impeachment trial of former President Trump. I'm Natalie Brand on Capitol Hill with why the trial will begin with a debate over its constitutionality.
And Motown legend Mary Wilson dies overnight at her home in Nevada.
The 4 states most watched news starts now.
For 2 days in a row, several 4-state schools make the decision to cancel classes as Mother Nature hands us a second morning of ice-packed roads. This is KOAM News at noon. I'm Tanya Bach. Topping our first 7 minutes, students in Miami, Oklahoma are among those staying at home today, but that wasn't the case yesterday. Miami School Superintendent Jeremy Hogan says Monday morning he felt comfortable that his school district could get students to class safely. But once the weather took a turn, so did that decision. Later that morning, Hogan issued an apology and allowed parents to pick their kids up at any time throughout the day to make up for any issues that came from bringing them to school.
Apologize. It was a mistake today. Unfortunately, if I could roll back time multiple hours, we wouldn't have had school today. But we did, and we worked to ensure they were safe in the school buildings. And if we could get them home earlier in a safe manner, we worked to do that.
Of course, Miami did make the decision to cancel classes today. Of course, the week is not over yet. Michael Hayslip joins us with the first look at the forecast.
And just go ahead to jump into the fray. We're going to pick up some more, not only snow, but the important part being the freezing rain. So despite the fact that road crews are going to be out doing their best, they're going to see them deteriorate late tonight into tomorrow morning as well. Live look at the Skywatch storm tracker with a heavy cloud cover, and even if we had sunshine, it's not enough to dominate the Arctic air that's rolled in right now. Not a whole lot hitting the ground, just some light flurries that we've seen throughout the 4 states, and obviously a frozen Freeman Health System campus where it is 18 degrees, the wind chill only sitting at 6, and we're not going to have any type of a warm-up today. Temperatures ranging anywhere from 15 in Iola and Fort Scott to 24 in Anderson and 23 in both Cassville and Miami. Wind just continues to whip in from the north. It's only just 10 to 15 miles per hour, but still that'll take 8-9 degrees out of that temperature compared to what it feels like. Majority of the heavy snow is now moved up into the northeastern portion of the United States. It's just the Arctic cold that we're locked in with. And as I mentioned, we've got a little bit more precipitation on the way. So as we jump into future track, we'll see the Gulf moisture present itself first as freezing rain along and south of I-44. A little bit of snow makes its way to the central and northern portion, but then look at this thing train all the way from Tuesday night through Wednesday. Additional snow up to the north right there until it pushes out to the east. It's going to last all the way into Thursday, and it's not going to melt anytime soon with temperatures remaining in the 20s. Coming up here in just a little bit, Tanya, we'll talk about the extension of a winter weather advisory and also to our local storm reports that do straightly involve ice and our roads.
All right, a lot to talk about. Thank you, Michael. Winter weather led to more than 100 traffic accidents in Oklahoma yesterday. At least 43 of them were reported in Oklahoma City in the morning hours, including this multi-vehicle pileup on an entrance ramp to Interstate 40. Day one of the second impeachment trial of former President Donald J. Trump gets underway today. The big focus of day one will be whether the Constitution allows Congress to impeach a president after he's left office. Natalie Brand has more details from Capitol Hill.
House impeachment managers will make their way through the same rotunda rioters stormed January 6th to present the case former President Donald Trump incited an insurrection.
With respect to the facts of this particular case and the merits, I do think it seems open and shut in terms of the president's responsibility.
The Democrats continue to obsess about Donald Trump when Donald Trump left office and went to Florida 3 weeks ago.
Day one begins with a debate over the constitutionality of an impeachment trial against a president no longer in office. In a pre-trial briefing, Mr. Trump's attorneys called the trial political theater.
The whole point of an impeachment is to try to remove someone from office. Well, if someone's out of office, then what's the point in going trying to do the impeachment?
Democrats point out most constitutional scholars agree they can move forward.
A president cannot simply resign to avoid accountability for an impeachable offense, nor can they escape judgment by waiting until their final few weeks in office to betray our country.
Kentucky Senator Rand Paul tried to force a vote on the constitutionality of the impeachment trial last month, saying it should be dismissed. 45 Senate Republicans supported his effort, indicating a conviction is unlikely.
You've got 45 senators already on the record saying, we just don't have the authority. I'd be surprised if many or any of those people change their minds on the underlying question of whether to impose a penalty or not.
Congressman Hakeem Jeffries, an impeachment manager in President Trump's first trial, says House prosecutors won't just be speaking to the senators serving as jurors.
A second and equally important audience is the American people.
A CBS News poll out this morning shows a majority of Americans, 56%, believe the Senate should convict former President Trump, but only 17% of Republicans agree. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Also in the CBS News poll, 56% believe President Trump encouraged violence at the Capitol on January 6th. A majority of Democrats and independents agree. However, only 22% of Republicans feel that way. That's a look at today's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Up next on KOAM News at noon, a team of international scientists looking for the origins of COVID-19 say the virus most likely first appeared in humans after jumping from an animal. We'll have the latest from the investigation in Wuhan. And later, the longest reigning original supreme, Mary Wilson, passes away. We'll take a look back at her musical career. The World Health Organization releases its initial findings into the source of the coronavirus outbreak, which has killed more than 2 million people. CBS's Tina Kraus reports.
After weeks of searching for the source of COVID-19 in the Chinese city of Wuhan, scientists with the World Health Organization came up empty-handed. Admitting in a news conference they're still not sure exactly where the virus came from. The WHO says early data suggests COVID could have been circulating in other regions for weeks before it was detected in Wuhan in December 2019. Investigators dismissed a theory the virus was accidentally released from this lab, which was experimenting with a similar virus.
It was very unlikely that anything could escape from such a place.
Scientists visited hospitals where some of the first coronavirus patients were treated, and the now famous live market that was linked to some of the first COVID cases. Experts believe the virus originated in bats, but could have been passed to people through another species of wild animals such as a pangolin or rat, which are considered exotic delicacies by some in China. The WHO is also looking into whether the virus was spread through imported frozen food, an idea Chinese officials have pushed repeatedly. Some countries, including the U.S., have accused China of shrouding the outbreak in secrecy. Investigators have just a few days left in their month-long visit to Wuhan, but say it could take years to find the origin of the virus. Tina Kraus, CBS News.
Earlier this month, an independent panel slammed China for initially dragging its feet when the virus started to spread and blamed the WHO for not declaring an international emergency sooner. Still to come on the KOAM News at noon, Mr. Food.
Salty, it's crunchy, it's cheesy, and it's messy. If you're thinking, what the heck is he talking about? It's poutine. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with this Canadian creation, it's simply French fries and cheese curds smothered in gravy.
But first, Michael Hayslip returns with your complete forecast.
Lock in and get used to it, because by the time we get to the 7-day forecast, we're going to find out that these freezing cold temps aren't going anywhere. And really, at this point in time, what's the difference between what we saw this morning with negative wind chills and that 1979 record that was 12 below for this February 9th? Here's where we stand right now. A whole bunch of teens to low 20s, not a huge separation as far as what we're seeing temperature-wise. Do have the gap with wind chill numbers, barely above zero up to the north, whole bunch of 2s from Yates Center, Iola, and Fort Scott. Carthage now sits at 7. You get below I-44, we actually do have some 20s there in Anderson and in Grove, but on and below I-44, that's going to be another problem area for tonight, because it's not only going to be the extreme cold that keeps on penetrating down to the south, but here for the next couple of days, you're starting to see a little bit of it right there. A little bit of that Gulf moisture beginning to pop up. We're going to have a collision course between the moisture and also to the freezing temps. So we've got winter weather advisories, winter storm watches, still ranging just about in that same area that they were yesterday. This up here, those are wind chill warnings, an idea of how dangerously cold it is. Now, ours aren't as expansive, the winter weather advisory encompassing 6 of our highlighted counties, but extended all the way until Thursday morning. These were set to expire this morning. National Weather Service said now it's going to be too cold and that moisture keeps on popping up. An idea that we're a long way from out of the fray. And also, too, remember, just because your county may not be indicated doesn't mean you're not going to run into slick spots on the road. Heavy cloud cover, sun wouldn't do us any good anyway. And when we talk about storm reports, you see the ice icons. Specifically, we want to target right here along and south of I-44, because while we've been able to keep the majority of the snow in the central and northern portions, the freezing rain is what really hampers travel down to the south. Stuck in the low 20s later on today. As far as what we're going to have overnight, temperatures don't want to budge. The important thing is nighttime freezing rain and snow. So let's talk about that. Remember, we talked about the Gulf moisture colliding with the freezing temps. Here we go. Everything moves from south to north. After it gets up and round up in this area, it's going to stay as snow and move up to the north. It's really, this is what I want to isolate right here. That's why we saw those winter weather advisories for those 6 specific counties, because this thing continues to train all the way into Wednesday morning. Also, too, you got to go down to Tulsa, OKC. Probably advise against it because it's just going to be a mess tomorrow as well. So is 49 coming out of Joplin, heading down to the south, and 44 even up towards Springfield. Not going to be looking much better. Look at how that thing just continues to ride the Gulf moisture. Then Wednesday afternoon, we begin to turn our attention to snow that's going to streak through in the north, while the freezing rain just continues to roll through. So just need everybody very, very careful, especially if you're headed down to the north right there. And it's going to be a long time before we get any melt with this either. Reason being, our temperatures just locked in below 20 just about every day this week. So as we transition, there's Freeman Health System Sky Camera. It's frosted campus. I wanted to show the national picture, show how that moisture just continues to move up out of Texas and the Arklatex region, and the cold Arctic air just right on us. We're about to, that line right there, we're on that dividing line. You know, sometimes it's even better when we get a little snow. 7-day forecast will show you that anything that hits the ground, not going to go anywhere. We're actually going to get colder as we progress toward Valentine's Day weekend. Overnight lows dropping down into single digits, if not negative. Next, looks like our next break after we get through Thursday is actually going to be Friday. Then we'll pick back up with some snow on Saturday.
We get a little break on Friday. That's good.
Need it. Going to need it by then.
Hopefully we can, not really warm enough to get anything cleared up, but we'll need it. That's for sure.
Don't forget, complete list of closings, bottom of your screen, organizations, businesses, activities, and schools.
Schools, yeah. Thought you already said that one. We'll be watching those. All right, thanks, Michael. We take this time to honor today's 4-state hero, John Bingham in the U.S. Navy. The petty officer first class joined the Naval Mobile Construction Battalion number 15 in 2007. He served a tour in Iraq, earning a number of honors, among them the CB Combat Warfare Medal, the Eagle Globe and Anchor, and the Presidential Unit Citation. To Petty Officer John Bingham, we thank you, our 4-state hero. It's salty, crunchy, and cheesy. Well, it sounds messy, and maybe that's why it's so good. Howard shows us how to make his Canadian-inspired perfect poutine in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
It's salty, it's crunchy, it's cheesy, and it's messy. If you're thinking, what the heck is he talking about? It's poutine. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with this Canadian creation, it's simply French fries and cheese curds smothered in gravy. As a matter of fact, in Canada, every McDonald's has poutine on their menu, right along with a Big Mac. To make them, we start by preparing some frozen French fries according to the package instructions. I baked them, but if you want, you could fry them. Now we top them with a handful of cheese curds. And since these might be new to you, cheese curds are a byproduct of cheese that are produced during the cheese making process. They have a mild flavor and they sort of squeak when you bite into them. All right, we have the fries, we have the cheese curds. Now all we have to do is smother everything with gravy. I never said this was healthy, but I promise it's very tasty. And whether you eat these as a go-along or as the ultimate comfort food, they're almost impossible to resist. To get the recipe for what we call perfect poutine, including the homemade gravy, simply visit our website. I'm Howard with Kelly in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen, where today we found a Canadian-inspired way for you to say, ooh, it's so good. You don't need a fork.
Well, Michael does like to blame Canada. You can find this recipe along with a lot more good food from the Mr. Food Test Kitchen online. Just go to our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. Here's a look at our 4-state market prices. Motown superstar Mary Wilson died overnight at her home in Nevada. She was 76 years old. The cause of her death has not been revealed. Michael George has more on Mary's story.
Mary Wilson was a founding member of the legendary Supremes. That's Wilson in the middle with Diana Ross and Florence Ballard, performing You Can't Hurry Love on The Ed Sullivan Show in the 1960s, just one of the group's 12 #1 singles in the U.S. In 1967, the Supremes performed a medley of those hits on The Andy Williams Show. Diana Ross offered her condolences to Wilson's family on Twitter. She wrote, "I am reminded that each day is a gift. I have so many wonderful memories of our time together. The Supremes will live on in our hearts." After the Supremes disbanded in 1977, Wilson became an activist and a best-selling author, but she'll be remembered as the longest reigning member of one of the most iconic singing groups in American music history. Michael George, CBS News.
That leaves Diana Ross as the only surviving member of the Supremes. Let's go to Michael for a final check of your forecast.
I'm glad they brought that up about best-selling author right there, because it's a pretty unique situation when you're not only in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but also on top of the New York Times book list. Absolutely amazing woman right there. As far as what we've got for Future Track, remember tonight, freezing rain down to the south, snow for the central and the north, another night of deteriorating road conditions as our temperatures are in the 20s all week long.
Well, coming up tonight at 5, switching on a light may soon do more than just brighten a room. Scientists have created tiny solar panels to absorb indoor light and turn it into electricity to charge your electronic devices. We're going to show you how it works. Plus, an experienced driving instructor for the Joplin Police Department gives some tips on how to safely drive on these icy roads. And cold temperatures continue this week. American Water Company wants you to take steps to keep your pipes from freezing. We'll show you how. Join us for those stories, much more tonight. KOAM News at 5.
Stay safe out there, Tanya, and I'll see you again tomorrow morning.
Rest of the team back here at 5 o'clock.